everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. This will be a fun one as we get set for the weekend. Friday right now when I'm recording this. It's coming up on around noon Pacific time. So the focus of this podcast will be Saturday, some horse racing, mainly Monmouth Park. It's the Haskell over there. It's going to be really hot on the East Coast, so we're going to keep an eye on that. They've actually already canceled the racing card for Saturday at Saratoga because it's supposed to be like somewhere around 107 degrees or so. They moved that Saturday card to Sunday, and we'll talk some Big Little Thoughts, Big Little Lies recap, episode 6. There's only one more episode of season 2, Big Little Lies. Best Disney animated movies. We've been going through the best movie series. So far, we've only done sports, different sports, best hockey movies, best soccer movies, best basketball movies, best golf movies, best baseball movies. Now we're going to go into the best Disney animated movies. MLB Trade Deadline. We'll get through some of those rumors in just a bit. So lots to discuss on this episode of That's What G Said. The Open Championship right now, the British Open, is currently underway, and it was not a good first few days for Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. It was the first time in 83 majors that both Tiger and Phil played in that they both missed the cut. So in the last 83, that's a long time for these two to both miss the cut at the same time right now, but getting a little older, Tiger just did not seem good. His body language was not good, and he mentioned he just wanted to go home. Afterwards, he just wants to be beyond this. And what's been really kind of strange is one of the perennial favorites in the Open Championship, Rory McIlroy, is really struggling right now. He is +2 through 16, and he is projected to miss the cut right now. He's tied for 75th at 2 over. Current leaderboard, JB Holmes, Shane Lowry, Fleetwood, Lee Westwood, Cameron Smith, Justin Harding, Justin Rose, Brooks Koepka, up at the top of the leaderboards. Koepka's always going to be there. If you follow me on social medias, Twitter, It's Me, Gino B, Facebook.com, Gino Bacola, Instagram, G Bacola. I just posted a Laker video from Laker Film Room, and this is a really, really smart basketball analyst who breaks down a lot of the Lakers, and he dissects their games, positives, negatives, everything, individual players, schemes. He makes it easy to learn offense, defense, a lot of the terminology, things that the average person might not be able to kind of pick up. He'll stop, pause things, focus in on things. He'll kind of show you the way things are run. And if you're a Laker fan, gets you really excited for just some of the possibilities with Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Danny Green. Those are the three in the video that he posts, because when you have a weapon like Danny Green, even though, hey, Danny Green's getting older, he's not going to play 40 minutes a game. Danny Green's not going to score 25 points a game. But I think people undervalue Danny Green in that he's such a good three-point shooter, and he shoots at such a high percentage, and he's such a well-respected three-point shooter that the defenses generally have to play him. They stretch out, and they cannot leave him open. Like some of the other Laker shooters in past years, you can just leave wide open and, figure that they're probably going to miss more often than they're going to make it. That's not the case with Danny Green. He makes wide open threes at a massive clip. And when you see the combinations of LeBron and AD and what they can do, this team is going to have some versatility and some options. It's all about health. So check out that Laker Film Room that I posted on social media. Coming up this weekend on Saturday, a big boxing fight on Saturday night at the MGM Grand. Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. Pacquiao 61-7 overall. Keith Thurman is 29-0. This is a big fight in the welterweight division, as a few years ago after Floyd was finishing up, Keith Thurman was probably the best welterweight in the world at that time. He's 29-0 with 22 knockouts. He is currently the WBA Super World Welterweight Champion, but he missed 22 months due to hand and elbow injuries in 2017. He came back in January to fight, but he looked shaky. in his comeback fight. He was not dominant. There have been some questions and concerns of him previously in that he's not a fighter. He's in it to win it more. He's not going to try to knock you out. He's a little more tactical, and that's something that kind of rubs a lot of fans the wrong way. They love to see the fighters out there. And then you have Manny Pacquiao, who is 61-7. He's held world titles in 8 different divisions, 24 years now as a pro, the current WBA world welterweight champ. In the way the welterweight division is set up right now, there's kind of like a big 5. So it's Pacquiao and Thurman. It's Errol Spence Jr., who's the IBF champ. He's 25-0. It's Sean Porter, who's the WBC champ, 32-1. He lost to Keith Thurman, but he's won 4 fights since that. And then the number 1 right now is Terrence Crawford, the WBO welterweight champ. He's 35-0. And the way it looks is that it's going to be Pacquiao versus Thurman, Spence versus Porter, and then the winner of each of those will fight. So the winner, Pacquiao Thurman, will fight the winner, Spence Porter, and then that winner will go on to face Crawford, and we can have a true and undisputed champ of the division. So that'll be fun. Big welterweight action Saturday night at the MGM Grand. July the 19th, on this day, let's go back to 1692, and one of the greatest instances of mass hysteria in the U.S., really in the world. The Salem witch trials. In 1692, on this day, 5 more people were hanged in the Salem witch trials. 200 people were accused throughout, 19 found guilty and executed. A couple others killed for different reasons, killed themselves, or different things happened. Really, really interesting time to read into. The mass hysteria in colonial America. 1843, the steamship, the SS Great Britain, was launched. The largest vessel afloat in the world. 1877, it was the first ever men's Wimbledon final. Spencer Gore wins. Just saw the Joker take the Wimbledon final. They've moved up Wimbledon a little bit now, a couple weeks. 1879, Doc Holliday reportedly kills for the first time. 1903, the first Tour de France was won by Maurice Guerin. 1910, Cy Young gets his 500th career victory. In 1930, Polar Expedition Team returns to the U.S. following the first exploration of the interior of Antarctica. 1941, Tom and Jerry first appear under their own names in the cartoon The Midnight Snack. 1990, Dave Righetti pitches his 499th game as a Yankee. And in 2007, Mad Men debuted on AMC. One of the most stressful events in life is moving. All the things that go into the process of relocating. There are so many different factors that you have to worry about. I know someone who can make your life easier. Very, very happy to talk about Cindy Carava as a sponsor of That's What G Said podcast. If the name sounds familiar, Cindy is the wife of horse racing trainer Jack Carava, who's been a mainstay on the Southern California racing circuit for the last 30 years. Cindy Carava is a full-service realtor that can help you in many different ways, like selling, purchasing, and leasing. She can help you find vendors like handymen, painters, landscapers, and gardeners that she personally uses in her own home. Also, if you need help getting pre-approved for a home loan, Cindy can connect you to lenders that she works closely with and can highly recommend. Covering all parts of the San Gabriel Valley, parts of North San Diego County, Del Mar, Solana Beach, and Rancho Santa Fe. If you're just curious to see how much your home is worth, she can even do a free market analysis of your home's value. You can find Cindy on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, reviews about her on Yelp and Zillow, or the easiest way, cindycarava.com. You can find all of her contact information there. I've known her personally for almost a decade. She's one of the most honest and genuine people I've ever met. Exactly the type of person you can trust with any of your real estate needs. Get to cindycarava.com right now. Or if you have any questions at all, email her cindyc.realtor@gmail.com. Mrs. Carava is a big fan of the movies and the best movie contest that we've been having so far. Her Final Four for baseball They actually all made the Elite Eight, A League of Their Own, The Sandlot, Moneyball, and Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams finished second, losing to Major League, which went down as the best baseball movie for That's What G Said podcast. And now it's time with The Lion King coming out. A lot of the Disney movies being remade. Let's talk about the best animated Disney movies. Now, Pixar is included, and these are animated movies. Mrs. Carava's two favorites, Cindy Carava's Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. I have to think that those are going to be two of the absolute top. I feel like those are going to be, either one of them could win and it wouldn't surprise me. They have to be two of the heavy, heavy favorites. And because I love this and because there are so many good animated Disney movies and I didn't want to leave anyone out, this is going to be the biggest bracket we've ever done. And I have to imagine the biggest bracket we will ever do. I don't think any of the other sports, we'll go big on some other categories, but it's kind of exhausting making a 128 bracket, which I did. Yes, 128 movie bracket, the best animated Disney movies of all time. Are you ready? Here is the list. The bracket is set up. The voting will begin later on today. So, get to Twitter, follow It's Me, Gino B, and make sure, because that's what's great about these Disney movies. Let's not kid, right? No matter how old we are, what age we are, there are big, big Disney movies that maybe shaped our generation or were big parts of our childhood. And you'll see through the different eras the movies, and I'm really curious how the voting will hold up. Like, will the Moana, Coco, and Frozen do well, or is it going to be more like the Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, or will some of the even older ones, the Pinocchio, Cinderella, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, Bambi, will that older group do well? We'll see. Okay, here is the list. This is the bracket, the 128 team bracket, the 128 movie bracket. And when I list, these are the matchups going forward. So get on over to Twitter, make sure and vote. I need all your help, and this is going to be fun. So let's have fun. Can you imagine how many songs I'm going to be singing of all these different Disney movies? I apologize in advance, folks. Beauty and the Beast, Treasure Planet. Jungle Book 2 versus The Brave Little Toaster. Winnie the Pooh versus Inside Out. Mulan versus Extremely Goofy Movie. Tarzan versus Home on the Range. Bolt versus The Secret World of Aridi. The Fox and the Hound versus The Reluctant Dragon. Moana versus Atlantis, Milo's Return. Cinderella versus The Tigger Movie. Incredibles 2 versus Oliver and Company. Coco versus Teacher's Pet. Black Cauldron versus Tom and Jerry. How about 2 Tom and Jerry mentions on the podcast in the first 15 minutes of the show today? 101 Dalmatians versus Secret of the Wings. Tangled, Make Mine Music, The Aristo, Cats, The Princess and the Frog, Up, The Return of Jafar. The other side, Aladdin versus Tinkerbell, Lost Treasure, Valiant, A Christmas Carol, Hercules, Fantasia 2000, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Brave, The Incredibles, Melody Time, Finding Dory versus Mars Needs Moms, Sword in the Stone versus Cinderella 2, Bambi versus Arjun Warrior Prince, Toy Story, it's got to be one of the top ones, right? Versus Pooh's Heffalump Movie. Cars 3 versus Saludos Amigos. Lilo and Stitch versus Recess, School's Out. The Great Mouse Detective versus The Wild. Lady and the Tramp versus Meet the Robinsons. The Rescuers versus Dinosaur. Toy Story 4 versus Lady and the Tramp 2. Dumbo versus The Three Caballeros. That's the first 64, the other side of the bracket. Snow White versus Piglet's Big Movie, Robin Hood versus Bambi 2, The Jungle Book versus Roadside Romeo, Pete's Dragon versus Lion King 2, Zootopia versus Tinkerbell, James and the Giant Peach versus Brother Bear, Planes versus Rescuers Down Under, Finding Nemo versus Nomeo and Juliet, The Lion King versus Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Hunchback of Notre Dame versus Cars 2, Monsters, Inc. versus Fox and the Hound 2, Toy Story 3 versus Song of the South, Alice in Wonderland versus Tangled, Before Ever After, Ratatouille versus Atlantis, Lost Empire, DuckTales the Movie versus Tigger, Pooh Musical, Pinocchio versus The Good Dinosaur. Whew. Final side of the bracket. Frozen versus Tinkerbell, Legend of. Wall-E versus Doug's First Movie, A Bug's Life versus Frankenweenie, Toy Story 2 versus Chicken Little, Peter Pan versus Fun and Fancy Free, Mulan 2 versus Big Hero 6, Wreck-It Ralph versus In Search of Santa, Pocahontas versus Planes, Fire and Rescue, The Little Mermaid versus Tom Thumb and Thumbelina, The Emperor's New Groove versus Pocahontas 2, A Goofy Movie, closet favorite Disney movie of mine, versus The Wind Rises, Monsters University versus The Nightmare Before Christmas, Sleeping Beauty versus The Pirate Fairy, Enchanted versus Ralph Breaks the Internet, Fantasia versus Return to Neverland, and Cars versus Strange Magic. 128 Disney animated movies. Let's find out which is number one. Get on over to Twitter, follow It's Me, Gino B, and let's vote in those polls. It's a different year in baseball with the trade deadline. This is the first time that we've ever had a truly hard trade deadline with no waivers throughout the month of August. The trade deadline on July the 31st will be different, and it's going to be interesting to see how baseball teams will be approaching the new trade deadline because there are so many teams that are still in the mix. The single trade deadline will fall on July the 31st, which was usually the non-waiver trade deadline, but you still had a month to complete trades afterwards. That's not going to be the case. So now, is there going to be more movement or less movement because so many teams feel like they still have a shot? Let's go through the current, I guess, wild card standings is the best way to think about it, because the teams that are in the division lead, they obviously think they have a shot, and I think they're all going to be buyers, right? You look at the Yankees, the Red Sox, they still think they're in the mix. They're going to be looking to upgrade. The Rays, you never know with the Rays, but you have to imagine they're trying to upgrade. They're in the mix. We know the Twins want to upgrade and grab a pitcher or two. The Indians are looking for a bat. The Astros are looking for a starting pitcher. The A's are looking for pitching, starting, and relief. The Braves are looking for a starting pitcher. The Nationals need some bullpen help. Philly needs a starting pitcher. They're all going to be looking like they're buying. So they're going to be looking and shopping. Milwaukee, they need some pitching. The Cubs need what they're reported to need and want: a veteran bat and a left-handed arm in the bullpen. St. Louis could use a little bit of help. The Dodgers absolutely are looking for some bullpen help. And then one of the more difficult teams is the Padres. We really don't know with the Padres. They went all in, kind of got Machado last year. Are they going to shop someone like Kirby Yates? Or we hear them in rumors for someone maybe even trying to buy in on Noah Syndergaard. So you never know. There are some teams that are kind of in the middle, right? And those teams are the Padres, the Angels, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Colorado, San Francisco, Arizona. You don't know with them yet. Are they going to trade some of their assets and just say, hey, we want to go younger. Let's get something for some of these free agents. Let's get off of some of these bad contracts. Or do they still feel like they're competitive enough, because a lot of these teams aren't far out in their wild card races. Right now, in the American League, Cleveland is currently the number one wild card spot. Oakland and Tampa are tied for the second spot. They're a game behind Cleveland. So those three teams are battling for the top two spots right now. But then right behind them, you have Boston. Boston's 2 games behind both of them, Tampa and Oakland. Texas is 4.5 games behind Tampa and Oakland. And the Angels are 5.5 games behind. So that AL wildcard spot, it's not nearly as deep as the NL, the race, but with Cleveland, Oakland, Tampa, and Boston, and Texas, they played really well early on in the season. I don't think they have enough to contend, but I'm not 100% ready to completely write Texas out. It does, though, look like it's going to be 4 teams battling for 2 spots there, with Cleveland, Oakland, Tampa, and Boston, and 2 of those 4 teams are probably going to get in. Now, on the National League side, we have Washington, who's the number 1 wildcard team. We have Milwaukee, who's the second wildcard team. They're a game and a half behind Washington, but they're both in as the top 2 wildcard spots. Then behind them, St. Louis is only a half game behind. Philadelphia is only a half game behind Milwaukee, as is St. Louis. Arizona is only a game and a half behind. The Giants are only 2.5 behind. Colorado is only 4 behind. San Diego's only 4 behind, and Pittsburgh's only 4.5 games behind Milwaukee. So you see there are a lot more teams there and a couple of central teams who are going to play each other quite a bit. There's a lot that could still happen. It still feels like there's a lot more movement that will happen out in the National League because it's been a league with a lot more parity. It's been a more balanced league because, let's be honest, the American League has a couple of the worst teams in the entire league. After you get past Miami, and Miami is not even that bad of a team, the rest of the National League isn't really that bad. You're looking at teams like Cincinnati, the Mets, they're talented teams, Pittsburgh, and then some of the bottom feeders in the National League West. Those aren't as bad of teams as Baltimore, Toronto, Kansas City, Detroit, Seattle. There's some pretty bad teams. So that's why there's, the discrepancy between the American and the National League this year. The National is just much more balanced. So it looks like the true sellers, I think the teams that are out of it, and they will be probably the most important part of this whole deadline. Who are they giving up? How much are they going to be asking in offers, prices for some of these players? Baltimore, Detroit, Kansas City, Toronto, Seattle, the White Sox, Miami, probably the Mets and Cincinnati. You have to think that they're the true sellers. And then the couple that are really key: San Francisco, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Texas. They're all teams that have a lot to offer, but if they're in the mix, like the Indians, we keep hearing rumors about the Indians possibly having Bauer on the trade. How could, on the trade deadline, or having Bauer on the trading block? How? They're the number one wildcard team right now. They have a legitimate chance to win their division too. Minnesota's been reeling a little bit. Cleveland is making a huge bid to win that division. They're only 4 games behind Minnesota right now. There's no way they can trade Bauer until the offseason. But they're looking around and they're trying to shop for a bat. Cleveland. They need a little help offensively. You look at Texas with Mike Minor, who has a 2.73 ERA, and he's owed just $9.5 million next year. So you get Mike Minor not only for your playoff push and your hopefully a playoff run, but you get him for next year at $9.5 million. And Texas has some other interesting pieces. Hunter Pence, Logan Forsythe, Asdrubal Carrera, all veterans who can go help a team. Don't even have to play every day. Versatile, experienced, give you another decent bat in your lineup. Add a little versatility to your lineup. Danny Santana, Jose Leclerc could be options for more than a year. Those Cubbies looking like, they need Madden mentioned he wanted a steady veteran bat and maybe a lefty in the bullpen. I feel like they could use maybe even just another not awesome starting pitcher, but maybe someone who can give them a couple starts. Maybe like a spot starter, back end of the rotation guy. A lot of questions about Syndergaard, as the Mets are now asking a lot for Syndergaard during a down year. That's the thing. You're asking a lot for a pitcher who we know can be very good, but he's not been very good this year. So it's hard. That's why a lot of reports I'm reading, and I wouldn't be surprised if Syndergaard just stays, because you're not going to get back what you want for him because he's having such a bad year. And unless someone comes in and is willing to overpay for him because they really need some help making their playoff push, then I think Syndergaard will probably stay clear with the Mets. Marcus Stroman from Toronto, he's an interesting one. He's under contract through next year. I'm pretty sure he will move somewhere. Bumgarner and Will Smith for the Giants. The Giants are playing well now. They're only 2.5 games behind Milwaukee for the second wild card. They're only 1 game under 500 now. They're 48-49. They've won 6 games in a row, and they're 9-1 in their last 10. Right at the point when they have to decide, because they don't have time, as we mentioned. These teams have to decide now in the next week and a half, 10 days. Are we selling? Or are we buying? We're not going to have another opportunity to go pick up extra players through the months of August and into September. We have to make these additions now if we want these players to be available to help us make the playoffs and to be on the playoff rosters. So yeah, with Bumgarner, with Will Smith, they're playing well. Minnesota, Milwaukee, Houston, the Phillies, they were all rumored to be very interested in Bumgarner. We heard the Yankees and the Red Sox even. A lot of teams. Atlanta was another one. There's a lot of teams that couldn't. Cubs, why couldn't they use Bumgarner? What about Arizona? Arizona's only a game and a half behind Milwaukee. They're 49 and 48. They're right in the mix for a wild card, but they have a lot of players that they could possibly deal because they did pretty well getting rid of some of their big pieces and getting back lots of young players who are actually a little bit ahead of schedule. This Arizona team is better than they expected to be right now. They might be okay with selling a couple more veterans, getting a couple more pieces, and just saying, hey, we're shooting for next year anyway, so let's just keep letting everybody get some playing time. They could get rid of David Peralta, Greg Holland, Alex Avila, Andrew Chafin, Gerard Dyson, Adam Jones. There's a lot of pieces that the Diamondbacks a lot of teams would use one of those. A fill-in vet, another arm, a bullpen piece. They have plenty to offer. They're a team they have to make their decision soon. Buyers or sellers? Trevor Bauer, no, I'm saying no way midseason. Matthew Boyd for Detroit. Detroit has a couple pretty interesting pieces in Matthew Boyd, who's under contract until 2020, and Shane Green, a bullpen piece who has been excellent, and everybody's needing bullpen arms this year. I expect both of those two to be on the move. The Mets just sent Zach Wheeler to the injured list. Supposed to not be too serious, but he was maybe one of the top pitchers that was reported to move around the trade deadline, and now he gets hurt right before, so this could be a massive negative for the Mets, or maybe a team that trades for him if he gets healthy in the next week, comes back to try to show he's healthy, and somebody trades for him and he's not 100% healthy. I don't like the Zach Wheeler situation at all right now. What about the Reds? Tanner Roark, Sonny Gray, both of them could be moving. Do they have any other pieces now if they continue to lose a couple more games? They've struggled to start the second half. I liked the Reds and the way they were playing, but they've gone the opposite way in the last few, and they're in some trouble right now. What about a guy like Kirby Yates for San Diego? If they still feel like maybe they're not quite there, do you get a prospect or do you get something, a couple pieces back for one of the best closers in the game? A lot of teams would be interested in Kirby Yates. Toronto, a couple more pieces too out of the bullpen. Ken Giles, who's been good. He's been an up and down closer, but he's been very good again this year. And then Daniel Hudson has been good throughout the year. Aaron Sanchez is versatile. Some teams would use him as a back-end starter or maybe long relief. Kansas City, Jake Diekman and Ian Kennedy. We've also heard stuff about perhaps Whit Merrifield that some teams could be interested in. And then a big closer name that's been floated around a lot, and he may be one who you have to pay quite a bit for, is Felipe Vasquez, who is a lefty closer for the Pirates, 98 miles per hour. He's a 4-pitch closer. He's under contract through 2021. And the Dodgers have been rumored to be interested in him, but I don't know how many prospects the Dodgers would be willing to give up. We've seen, that's why they've been a sustained, solid team, because they don't give a lot of their prospects up. They didn't give up Jock. They didn't give up Seager. They didn't give up Bellinger. And look what it's done for them now, as those three are, big pieces of your lineup and of your everyday, production. Still a couple weeks. Man, about a week and a half for that MLB trade deadline. It's going to be different this year. It's a completely different look. Another one to mention, Nicholas Castellanos from Detroit could be another bat that could help a lineup. Capable bat could get you a big hit in the playoffs or in a big series. Okay, let's start talking some horse racing. Saratoga canceled their Saturday card. They moved it to Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of focus on Monmouth Park because the weather is scheduled to be really, really hot, pushing over 100 degrees at Monmouth Park. And it is the Haskell Day on Saturday, July the 20th. So get your past performances out for Saturday, July 20th at Monmouth. I'm not going to go through all the card. I'm just going to pick races 5, 10, 11, and 12 at Monmouth And then at Del Mar, we'll go over races 4, 5, and 8. A couple horses I like in those spots. So let's go to the 5th race. It is the Oceanport. And, you look through this field, the Oceanport is 3-year-olds and up, mile and a 16th on the turf course. Divisadero is real classy. A lot of us know the name. He's been in, a graded stakes, late runner on the turf for the last couple years. Millionaire. Projected is a name, probably familiar to some. Just Howard's been pretty consistent. It's an okay grade 3 race, but the way that I see this race on paper, I don't think there's a lot of speed in here. Right? The Divisadero is a stone cold closer. Bird's Eye View is not really fast and is not really coming out of fast races. Dover Cliffs, to me, looks like the horse that's going to get the lead because Projected's not fast. Pismo Time is not really fast. And Just Howard is not really fast. Dover Cliffs is coming out of a couple races that have been a little quicker early on. I think with the inside draw, the plan should absolutely be, hey, let's try to steal this race. There's just not a lot of speed in here. Now, I could see a Bird's Eye View or a Pismo Time or a Just Howard, but they haven't proven that. And I think Dover Cliffs is just naturally a little bit faster than them. If they all break the way they do and Dover Cliffs goes on with it, he could end up on the lead. Everybody could be very content with their places in a small field like this, and that's when speed horses are able to steal the race. A lot of times, big fields, it's harder because you're going to accidentally get a couple horses that push the pace that you weren't expecting. In a race like this, hopefully everyone can kind of pick out their spots and settle in them, and Dover Cliffs can lope along on the front end. If we can get 6-1 on Dover Cliffs or so, let's bet this one to win. The number 3 in race number 5 at Monmouth Park, Dover Cliffs. Let's go to race 8. Or no, race 8 is the Molly Pictor, and Midnight Beast who's going to be in there. So I'm not really going to talk about the race, but she's awesome. She's perfect on the year. She is the best older filly or mare right now. She'll have to prove she can go a little farther because mile and a 16th is her trip. We'll see about the mile and an 8th. That's in the 8th race. So that's just a watch race. Race number 8 at Monmouth Park. Let's get to the 10th. Next race we're going to play. The 2 Lemonade Thursday got a big number in his most recent win. It was at Monmouth Park. It was going a mile and a 16th. He sat really, really close and just looked like a winner all the way around the racetrack, to be honest. He was traveling well, and he got to the lead without being asked. Have to be pleased with that first start at the age of 4. He's improved. He's matured. I'm not really concerned with the fact that he earned a big number and maybe he'll bounce and take a step back, second start off the bench, because it wasn't a race where he was taxed at all. He sat perfectly right behind, moved to the lead, and that was it. He didn't run really hard on the front end to earn that big number. He just sat a perfect trip. So I don't think he's going to bounce in here. In fact, I think he's going to improve. I don't know about, numbers and figure-wise, but I think with the race under his belt, overall, he'll have a little more fitness, a little more bottom, second start off the bench. You look up and down this field. Have to assume Cole Front is on the lead. If that's the case, maybe Ball Harbor pushing or Ball Harbor right behind, and I think that puts Lemonade Thursday in a good spot. We'll see if Ball Harbor and Cole Front push each other for Pletcher. But Lemonade Thursday is the type of horse who has that tactical, tractable speed where he can take back and then move pretty easily. He seems like a pretty handy horse. And if you go through his career, race by race, his 8-race career, he has really only a couple poor performances, and you can make legitimate excuses for them. Great second in his career debut, only beaten a neck. Then he comes back, and he doesn't run well at Keeneland, but we don't see him from October to June, so let's excuse that race. We can make a legitimate excuse because horses definitely don't go to the bench and the sidelines for no reason. Comes back Saratoga in his first start, going long on the grass, comes back at Laurel, wins at Laurel, and then has a poor race later at Saratoga. Other than that, you have the other race at Laurel on October the 26th. Again, runs, and then he doesn't run for 8 months afterwards. Those are always races you can make an excuse for. So Lemonade Thursday, put a line through October 26th, 2018. Just eliminate that race. Eliminate the Keeneland race on October the 7th, 2017. Now look at the form. You toss 2 races out. Now there are 6 races left on the page. There's one poor race that's going long on the grass at Saratoga. And it really wasn't that bad of a race, to be honest, in a big field. Not beating a whole heck of a lot. The form looks really good. Are there any monsters in here? On a good day, Cole Front can be very good. Sure. Absolutely. He's speedy, though. He's not coming off a great race. Did he face a lot tougher? Absolutely. He'll have to prove it at the mile and an eighth. Rest of this field, Ball Harbor's okay. Monongahela's okay. I think this could be a great spot for Lemonade Thursday to step up and run really well. The 2-horse in race number 10 at Monmouth Park on Saturday. Lemonade Thursday. If we can get anything around 7-2 or so on Lemonade Thursday. Race number 11. I'm So Fancy is going to be really tough in here. The 2. She was a nice mare overseas in Ireland. Group stakes winner. And she hooked some nice ones. You look through her running lines. Really good ones. Magical. Top-notch contenders. Top class. She comes over the U.S., hadn't raced from September of 2018 until May of 2019, and she made her first start in the Galleret, and she ran pretty well that day in a race that was strong. It's produced 3 next out winners, including I'm So Fancy. And the winner, Mitchell Road, just faced Grade 1 Company. That's a really tough one to pass when she's able to get out front. Mitchell Road is really, really quick and tough and speedy. You see, Vegas came back to win. So, yeah, those 3 next out winners. One of them was So Fancy, winning at Laurel Park on June the 16th. Settled nicely in 4th, was tucked inside, was 3 off, angled around 4 wide. Just looked like a total pro. That was now her second start in the U.S., her second start for this barn. That was the first time McCarthy was aboard. Now he's figured her out a little bit. Now 3rd off the bench, 3rd time U.S., 3rd time Delacour, 2nd time McCarthy. Lots of things to like about I'm So Fancy. She deserves to be around 5-2 in here. So if she's anything over that price, let's put a win wager on I'm So Fancy. Total respect for Competition of Ideas. And Zenobia to the outside, I would not talk you off Zenobia. She was squeezed back at the start. She was dead last. She was about 10 lengths off. It wasn't a great beginning for her first start since August of 2018. But she settled. She traveled well. She moved up to within a few lengths. She was 3 deep at the top of the lane, and then she faded. Just totally looked like a race that was a good setup race that she would get more out of. I don't know how good she is or if she's good enough to beat some of the tops in here, like Competition of Ideas and I'm So Fancy, but you could include her in some of your exotics if she doesn't get bet too hard, Zenobia, but we're going with the 2, I'm So Fancy. Anything over 5-2 seems like value to me. 12th race at Monmouth Park, it is the Haskell. Let's go horse by horse in here. King for a Day. He's really tough to knock. He hasn't done much wrong. And I love when I can hear myself start to get high. He does the high voice, the high pitched voice. It's great. I can catch myself sometimes. He is, he's looking for his 3rd win in a row. He has this style in a racehorse that I absolutely love, where he has some speed, but he's better off when he's sitting right behind. And when you have that kind of a style, you're able to adapt so nicely to different races, to races that, a little quicker early on. If something happens and you have that style and you're shuffled back a little bit, but you're able to kind of move whenever you'd like, move inside, move outside, press button. King for a Day is that kind. He just took it to Maximum Security last time out. They faced in the Pegasus, and that was King for a Day's 2nd victory in a row. You go back to King for a Day's career debut. He lost to Complexity when Complexity was really good at that time. He was only beaten a couple lengths in the Kentucky Jockey Club when he made a big sweeping move, and he was behind Signalman and Limonite and Pluquet Parfait, who were fine contenders at that time. They were good 2-year-olds then. The big key to the race for me with King for a Day is, what will the chosen tactics be for him from the rail? Are they going to try to be a little more aggressive and stay out of some trouble, or do they decide, hey, let's take back a little bit? Because when King for a Day looks to his outside, he has Jovia, who is going to be on the lead. The only race, he's really only shown speed, and he's only been one-dimensional. Bethlehem Road is going to be forwardly placed. Mucho Gusto is going to be forwardly placed. Maximum Security is going to be very forwardly placed. So in this field of 7, there legitimately could be 6 horses on the lead. And any combinations of those 6, if you told me that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them were on the lead, it wouldn't surprise me. And that's why when I handicap this race, I think a horse you have to use if you're playing multi-race exotics, or if you're playing exactas, trifectas, and supers. I still am having a tough time. We'll see what price he is on the win end. I'll still probably throw him in on some pick 4s or pick 3s if you play anything like that, but it's Everfast. Because who else in this race really wants to close and take back and pass horses late? Nobody besides Everfast. Nobody. Jovia, who was 3rd in the Belmont, showed speed and then backed up a little bit. And he showed speed sprinting. He's legitimately got speed. Same thing with King for a Day. He's really quick. He was right on the outside of Maximum Security. Spun to Run adds the blinkers. He's never been farther than like a half length out of it early on, but he's probably not as fast as the others. And he's dealing with a layoff issue. He hasn't raced since March. He's never gone a mile and an eighth, and he's never faced horses of this class level. But a horse like him, they can't be saying, yeah, let's sit 5 lengths off in here. Their best races have been up close. They want to do what is best for them. Spun to Run won't be far out of it. Bethlehem Road. He didn't have the greatest start at Thistledown in the Ohio Derby. Prior to that, he's been really quick out of the gate, and he still flashed some early interest even after the not great start. What I love about Mucho Gusto for Baffert is that he's seeming like he's improving. He's getting better. He seems like he's more of a now horse. Like, I look at this race and it feels like Mucho Gusto and King for a Day are going the right way, and I don't know if Maximum Security is. I think he might be kind of where he is, and that might still be good enough to win. But I don't, from a race shape standpoint, I just don't know if it's going to be the best for Maximum Security. And I'll give Mucho Gusto the nod over Maximum Security solely based on what I've seen from him in a couple of his starts. He can sit off a little bit if they go quick. He can sit 2 lengths behind and then angle out and come running. He broke well from the outside, but he didn't run off. He sat 3rd, 4th. He was 3 deep, but he was always in the clear. He was always wide, and it looked like that was the point. Okay, we can stay a little wide, but we don't want to necessarily have him 10 lengths behind. We don't want to have him way off of it and have to maneuver through traffic, but we can sit just off horses and in the clear with a target, absolutely. And I'm hoping that's Mucho Gusto in here. Maybe just a couple lengths off. A length or 2 off, sitting just behind. Just beat Roadster, looking for his 3rd win in a row. I mean, what has he done wrong in his career? I think sometimes horses like Mucho Gusto don't get the respect they deserve just because they're not as good as the big name stars, right? Just because Mucho Gusto doesn't make the Derby and he's not game winner, still a very nice animal, and he might be, one of those Baffert horses that peaks in the middle to the second half of the season that we've seen in the last couple of years. Everfast. His Belmont really wasn't that bad. And because the way that the race shape in the mile and a half races go, you end up getting a little closer. And those races don't end up setting up for stone cold closers like Everfast because they're not as quick throughout and they just don't get the type of setup that Everfast should get in here. I mean, as you mentioned, any one of those, like this combinations of King for a Day, Jovia, Splendor Run, Bethlehem Road, Mucho Gusto, Maximum Security, they could all be on the lead. They could all be pushing each other. There could be 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them. Maybe Maximum Security is faster than all of them. And from the outside, that's the perfect draw for Maximum Security. And let's be honest, I'm not going to play him in this spot just because I think we'll see what the actual tote board looks like. But when you have a horse like Maximum Security and he's the quote-unquote Derby winner, even though he wasn't, he crossed the wire first in the Derby, I think his reputation, he'll always get bet a little bit more because people know his name and he's become more of a popular, well-known horse just because of the controversy with the DQ and everything. But he did have legitimate trouble. That was a bad bump, kind of bumped around. He recovered well, but you never know how much that bump takes out of you when you go down. So I'm not expecting him to run dead last in here, but I am expecting him to get beat. And I am playing the race like he will get beat, with Mucho Gusto on top. And if Mucho Gusto, we'll see what the price is. Like if we can get 5-2 on him, that'd be great. I don't think we will. In the exotics, the other horses would obviously be King for a Day, Everfast, and Maximum Security. But if you're going to take the approach that you want to try to beat Maximum Security, I would play 5-6-1, Mucho Gusto, Everfast, King for a Day, combinations with those 3. Hope that Maximum Security was very good early on in the year, and maybe he's just past his best. We see that a lot of times with horses. That's what we're hoping from a gambling standpoint. I don't, truth be told, I don't. I think Maximum Security is going to run well, but I don't want to bet him in here. I think he'll probably hit the board, but I do like Mucho Gusto. I do like King for a Day better. I would play either one of them to win over Maximum Security to win. I think they're both legitimate other contenders if you're looking for a horse to bet to win. And then Everfast, if you want to go a little outside the box, he gets a great setup. I don't know if he's good enough to win this kind of a race, but there are versions of the way this race is run when everyone goes to the lead. They all hook up, and Everfast is just chilling behind them all saying, "See ya in a bit, suckers," and he just angles out, runs right on by. So the Haskell, from just like a wagering standpoint, going to be one that we'll have to really see what the tote board looks like. 5, you know how I'm going to approach this race. If King for a Day is a good price, bet him to win. If Mucho Gusto is a good price, bet him to win. If not, maybe you try to beat Maximum Security together and you just play the 2 of them in exactas with Everfast, and you hope Maximum Security runs third. You try to get Mucho Gusto, King for a Day, and Everfast in your top 2 spots. That might be an approach of mine. We'll see how the odds reflect what I want to play on Saturday. Del Mar, Saturday, July 20th. Let's do a quick little look at Del Mar. Let's get your past performances out. The early races, I was going to try to play a pick 5. They're not great. They're just not deep. It feels like it's going to be really formful in the early part of the card, a lot of chalk. So I'm not going to, during the summer when there's so many opportunities, I'm never going to force it. And I'm never going to go through sequences that I don't like or that are not interesting or that don't have a big name or a big star horse in there, or for some reason that we want to play it, a good horse to bet. If it's just a small field and not going to be a good betting opportunity, no thank you, just going to move on. So let's go to race number 4. This is not a good betting opportunity, but this is a definite race to watch because you will see a horse who was one of the better horses in training last year, Catalina Cruiser. I still don't think a lot of us really know how good this horse is, because the only time where we expected to see him have to get tested was in the Breeders' Cup, and he just didn't show up with his A game that day for whatever reason. Now, he just traveled out of California and won at Belmont Park. He won the Grade True North, going 6.5 furlongs. He did that from the inside after a slow start. He was extremely, extremely impressive. covered. He was just off a few lengths. He was in between horses. It wasn't the smoothest first half mile for him, but then he got a great split. He got a great opening. He angled out with dead aim, and he gets up in the final strides. He beat a couple really nice sprinters. The big issue with Catalina Cruiser is he is a perennial slow starter. Always a slow start. Always a slow start. Even in the races where he's shown speed, it's like a slow start, then he moves up. And that's not going to work well against the top level sprinters. But in a race like this, in the San Diego, going a mile in the 16th, a slow start is not going to hurt him nearly as much. And he may not even start as slow because less pressure to get out of the gate real quick. He's probably the horse to catch. I mean, he's really versatile. I don't know the way. I'd imagine coming out of that quicker race that they just handle him like that he's the best and send him away. Because nobody's that fast in here, right? Draft pick, Dr. Door, higher power, core beliefs. We're not talking about speed demons. They all have a little bit of like positional speed. Going to be a good spot for Catalina Cruiser. And then where does he go from here? They're going to have to make a decision. Is he a horse that they think can continue to get the distance and take a shot at the Breeders' Cup Classic? Or you cut him back to a mile or a sprint. You have a lot of options with a horse like Catalina Cruiser. Plenty of opportunities. So, the rest of this field, I just don't think this is a race to bet. Core beliefs. He really never in it in the Gold Cup. Was a winner, greatest stakes winner in New Orleans prior to that, but he's been a little spotty. We haven't seen him race a whole lot lately. I don't like the layoff. Higher power showed speed on the grass. I don't think he's going to be quick enough to contend with Catalina Cruiser early, so he probably does just get the lead from the inside. Draft pick is in nice form. He was third of four. He sat behind the top two battling. He angled four wide after an early move, forced him wider. He kept trying hard as the four horses lined up across the racetrack at the top of the lane. It was a determined win for Draft Pick last time out. It was a small field, but they all showed up with a good effort, and Draft Pick got the better of them, even with a wide journey. Mongolian Groom, Dr. Door, not really huge fans of either. So this is just a watch race in race number 4. Let's see how good Catalina Cruiser is. Can he take another step forward? And then where will he end up next? 2 plays for you at Del Mar throughout the card. Race number 5. Maiden special weights, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. The key to this race is that it is 6.5 furlongs. Because when I see 6.5 furlongs, that generally means I want a horse who has a little bit of experience. Now, some races, there are no horses with experience, so that can't work. But in a race like this, where you have some first-time starters, I like a horse who has a little experience, and in particular, I want a horse who's gone a little farther. Because cutting back from a mile to 6.5 furlongs is a really nice cutback. It gives you some more fitness. It gives you a little bit more bottom. And I look at the horses who have run. I'm going to go to the 3, Sunny Dale. In her last start, she tried the dirt for the first time after a couple shots on the grass, and she came out of actually some pretty decent races on the grass, and she started to show some improvement. But on the dirt, she broke well. She was in the 3 path going into the turn. She was just 2 off. She was all bunched up, and then she was in the 2 path waiting for room. She got a seam. She shot through. She actually had the lead at the top of the lane before tiring. Wasn't a bad effort. First start in a couple months. It was going a mile. Now cuts back. I think this horse should have a lot more punch late. So I'm expecting a really big effort from the number 3, Sunny Dale, in race number 5 at Del Mar. If we can get anything over 5-2 or so on Sunny Dale, that's worthy of a win wager. Make sure to use Sunny Dale in all of your exotics. Let's go to race number 8. Now, it's been an unbelievably bad year for jockey Alonso Quinones, who has been always a jockey that's around 10%. He's always been in the 8 to 12%, right around there. So definitely not bad. Very capable with good horses through the years. This year, right now, he is 2 for 124. And he has 16 seconds and 20 thirds. So when you look at that, the in the money percentage really isn't even that bad. And he's only 1-2. Is it unlucky? Is it just making bad moves? Is it wrong horses? Like, that's a massive number. That's a number that's hard for me to look past, and yet I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. We have to get 5-1 on overemphasize, though. She should be one of the favorites in here. She should be like 3-1 or 7-2. But because of a jockey who's really cold, you have to demand a little bit more value. If it was a top jock, I think she would be right there and be one of the betting choices. And she still might get bet a little bit. So if she does, it's hard to play her at anything under 5-1. But you look at her last start. She was tucked inside at the rail with nowhere to go. She tried to go in between horses, couldn't get through, then angled inside, and she ran really well. She was just unlucky. But is it unlucky, or is it a jockey who has been kind of in a cold streak and maybe just hitting the wrong holes? It happens in every sport, right? Some of the best baseball players have a bad year, a bad month, a bad 2 years, a bad couple years with a certain team. How about a football player, quarterback, or a team in a different offense? So it happens to all levels of athlete in every sport. But let's give Quinones a big shot here. Come on, overemphasize Alonso. Let's get off the side here and let's get overemphasize home. Let's play a win wager on overemphasize as long as we can get 5-1 on that one in the 8th race at Del Mar on Saturday, July the 20th. Final segment of the show, some Big Little thoughts. Okay, we just watched Big Little Lies, Season 2, Episode 6. So if you haven't caught up, spoiler alert, go watch the episode and then come back and finish the podcast. The episode starts with the same flashback of Perry's death from Renata's view. She seems a little rattled at first, Renata does, when we see her in the flashback with the dark hair. But after a minute, she's telling everyone nobody did this, and we see the women kind of gathering themselves and figuring out what they're going to do after Perry has been pushed by Bonnie. First thing we actually see is Jane going to Corey's after he comes back from the police. Bonnie saw him. Bonnie told Jane. She asks if he's a cop. Corey mentions that he was just called in for questioning by Detective Quinlan, and the detective had asked all about Corey and Jane's relationship, Perry's death. Does Corey know anything about that? Does he know about Jane and Perry's history? The detective thinks that one of these women will crack. She thinks that they are lying. She knows there is more to this story. And she's now at the point where she's trying to get them and some of the people in their lives to get them to turn against each other. Mary Louise and Detective Quinlan, they're watching tape statements from Celeste. We see they're looking for inconsistencies that Mary Louise can perhaps use to get the kids away from her, and that the detective can perhaps use, and they can maybe give this information to the lawyer to use against Celeste in the testimonies, and then maybe that'll trigger another investigation, and Detective Quinlan can get something out of that too. They're all in cahoots here, trying to get Celeste to crack. The Monterey Five, they have a little powwow. We see them go to meet again at one of their late night spots, and Madeline and Bonnie kind of have a heated interaction where they're starting to argue and kind of blame each other, and Madeline says, "You pushed him." We see Bonnie confessing to someone, then it looks like it's just a dream, as she's writing in her journal. Bonnie's mom's still in the hospital. Madeline and Ed, they're discussing the powwow that Madeline just had with the women, and she's telling Ed about the back and forth she had with Bonnie, but she's obviously not telling him why. He doesn't know about the murder of Perry, or Perry's death, and what really happened, and he's frustrated because he can tell that she's leaving out some big deets. Madeline, she's trying now. She wants to make this work with Ed. She talks to Renata. Renata, I want to tell Ed, and Renata convinces her, no, you cannot tell him. You can't. Jane, frustrated with everything, will not return Corey's calls or text. I'm not sure if she believes him or doesn't, but this is definitely not what she needed right as she was starting to let him in after what she's been through. Bonnie then has a vision of her suffocating her mom with a pillow in the hospital, which is something she gets to in a minute when she's discussing her mom's death and euthanasia, really. The hearing for the boys and to see if Celeste is a fit mother, Mary Louise comes over to tell Celeste we're always a family no matter what before it starts, and Celeste is, no, we're not. God, Streep, Mary Louise is just so condescending. She's so hateable. God, I dislike her so much. So the judge discusses that the child psychiatrist has given him a report. Both parties get to view the report for 24 hours before they report back. Celeste is upset, in tears. Her lawyer mentions again that maybe settling is a good idea, and Celeste obviously does not want to do that. She does not want to split custody with Mary Louise. The doctors tell Bonnie and Bonnie's dad that there's nothing they can do more for Bonnie's mom, and that's when Bonnie's mom asks if they can kill her with morphine, like a dog. A lot of unsolved issues in that relationship. Renata and Gordon's housekeeper, Juliet, is forced to leave their house now because they don't have any money to pay her anymore. She asks about her severance, which Renata lets her know it will be taken care of in a hearing soon. Renata obviously likes her, and she's very sad to see her go. She's trying to help her find a new job. Jane and Ziggy, they're out boogie boarding when they see Corey. And he mentions to Jane, he's not giving up, he's not walking away, he's not done with her. He's not going to let her push him away. Madeline and Bonnie see each other at the courtroom, and Madeline apologizes to Bonnie for the other day, and for their interactions, and for accusing her and putting all the blame on her. Celeste then takes the stand, and this is where things kind of get a little rough for Celeste. She gets asked about the abusive relationship with Perry. She gets asked if the physical violence led to sex. She mentions that he beat her up. They talk about how she never called the police or told anyone except her therapist. And the lawyer is doing a great job. Like, Mary Louise's lawyer is really good. He's doing a great job of making Celeste look unstable, not look good, kind of circling around her words quite a bit. They ask if about the physical violence leading to sex. And Mary Louise has obviously been having Celeste watched and followed because she has been with many men, many sexual partners who they have, pictures and video of all of her interactions. She mentions that she was doing some drinking and she doesn't know a lot of their names. So as these guys pop up, she doesn't really know their names. She's calling them Joe and I think Jim, Joe, Jack. She has to mention drinking, not knowing their names, sex in the bathroom, aggressive sex in the bathroom. Does not come off well. And Mary Louise is loving this. They've built a good case so far against Celeste. She even has to mention taking Ambien. They know about her car accident where she drives off the road. Celeste then addresses the court and she says, I'm in the process of healing right now. Then the lawyer asks if she's ever been violent with the boys, which she's pushed them down a couple times when they've been violent with her or when they've been disrespectful to her. Smacked them. And they ask if she's ever been violent with her mother-in-law, which she has. She smacked the crap out of her. So everything is just coming off really bad for Celeste. Then she gets accused. The lawyer accuses her of pushing Perry down the stairs. He literally accuses her of murder. He accuses her of killing Perry. They pull out a diagram and it shows how he fell, where he fell, the stairs, and how, if he was tripped or if he was pushed, where he ended up. She said she did not push him and that he lost his balance. And that's it for that. Where that's it for the first part of Celeste being on the stand. And we see the women now go to counsel, talk to Celeste after the hearing is over for the day. And Renata is furious with the lawyer. That lawyer, Celeste's lawyer, is just awful. She literally does nothing. The women are counseling Celeste. The lawyer wants to get her back up there, though, which I do think is a positive. That is a positive that she says, I want to get you back up there and I want to build you back up and make you look better. Everywhere we look, we see the detective Quinlan looming in the courtroom, ominously hanging around in the background. She's got pictures of everyone. She's watching through. She's just waiting for somebody to make a mistake. Next up, we see Ed hanging out with Tori. He's out having a drink with Tori, discussing having an affair. And she is pretty bold. Pretty bold. She just tells it exactly what she wants. She said she is not trying to be the victim. She's attracted to Ed. I want you. She offers a one-time thing or an ongoing thing. She is very sure of herself, and she wants Ed right now. And Ed, for someone who has never really gotten this kind of attention from Madeline, has to be loving this. A woman coming up and saying, I want you now, whatever way you want it. This is what, that's not what he's used to. Then we see Madeline and Ed talk, and she wants to earn his trust back. And he says it can't just happen. You can't just wave a wand, but he can see that she's trying. Then we see Jane go to see Mary Louise, and Jane is furious. Everybody's furious with Mary Louise, as they should be. She's trying to take the kids from Celeste. She is a bad person. She obviously has skeletons. There are lots of issues with Mary Louise, and she is content and happy with ruining everyone's lives, torpedoing them. She's rude. She's disrespectful. God, I hate her. So Jane goes to see her. She tells Mary Louise to call it off, and Mary Louise says she knows Celeste is not well. And then she accuses Jane of coming to murder Perry. And now what's happening is Ziggy is spending time with Mary Louise, and so Ziggy's starting to tell Mary Louise little things that she's using against them. That's what she does, is she's so manipulative. She uses all these things that everyone else says, or these small things that she knows about you, against you to really prey on your emotions. So as Jane is furious while she's basically accusing him of coming here to murder Perry and of murdering Perry, Mary Louise locks the doors, turns up the music to drown out Jane, who's like outside knocking on the door and screaming at her. Mary Louise, she's content with herself. She's screwing everything up for everyone. She is demented and she loves it. She's just trying. In her mind, she's doing justice for her son. So she doesn't feel like anything she's doing is wrong, even though she is an absolute loon. Celeste is at home. She's having a few drinks the night before the next day of court because she's obviously very nervous. She's going to have to go in there and she's going to have to get back up on the stand after she looked bad and she got rattled. She's having visions of Perry again. Ed comes home with the kids. He brings some food for Madeline, but Madeline's in the other room. She looks like she's cleaning everything out from her closet. She's drinking, I think. She has her wedding dress on, well, half on because it doesn't fit. And she's playing and singing the song that was their wedding song that Ed had picked out. So Ed walks in and sees, and she just looks like an absolute mess, but it's funny, and Ed actually loves it. She seems to have scored major points. She's in her wedding dress that doesn't fit, dancing to the wedding song that Ed picked out, and he said, it's almost like you waved a wand. So now will Ed go on with the affair? Is he happy with the strides and the progress that he's making with Madeline? Bonnie's mom keeps appearing in Bonnie's dreams. Anytime Bonnie's asleep, she's having flashbacks of her mom when she was a kid, bad things her mom did to her, Bonnie killing her mom, telling all these different things with her mom. Anytime Bonnie's eyes are closed, her mom is in there, and she's just trying to come to terms with the fact that her mom's about to die, and I think she has a lot that she wants to tell her and how much her mom has hurt her through the years. Celeste is now on the stand next day. She's getting questioned by her lawyer. They mentioned that she was thrown off yesterday when she heard about the men. She wasn't expecting that. But she is getting help with her therapist. She is taking Ambien. Celeste agrees that she will get help for sex issues because the judge has major concerns that she has a problem, some sort of sex dependency or unhealthy sex problem. Celeste explains what she wanted when she was having these interactions with the men. And I think this is a point where she comes off very well because let's think about this. Any one of us who have dealt with major tragedy in any way, now this is a soap opera and she's involved in the killing and stuff. But if you've lost someone in your life, anyone that you love, especially if it's someone that you were physical with, a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, anything like that, a lot of times we feel numb. I mean, mothers, fathers, and what people that have been with us forever, people that we've loved, you feel numb when they're gone. And what ends up happening is you go seek out like physical relationships because you just want to feel something other than numb. You go look for these things that are going to try to help you feel, and most of the time they don't. Occasionally one of them will, but a lot of people deal with hardships that way. And she said she wanted to be touched. She just lost her husband. She wanted it to be uncomplicated. She didn't want to have to deal with all of the issues that she's going on and have that weigh someone else down. She wanted to be in control after what has just happened to her. And she wanted to help push the memory of Perry out because she had a lot of bad experiences with a guy who beat her, assaulted her, raped her, but a man she loved. Those are conflicting feelings. The judge asks why Celeste stayed with Perry all along. And she said she always thought he would get better, and she was afraid of how he would react and what he would do. She stayed with him for the survival of herself and of her boys. Bonnie's mom wakes up for a second, sees Bonnie. Bonnie doesn't know if it's real or not. We don't really know if a lot of these things are real or not, but it looks like it was real because Bonnie goes and closes the door, and while her mom is asleep still, Bonnie gets out her journal and she pours out her soul to her mom. She tells her every reason why she hates her, why she resents her. She goes through all of the issues that Bonnie has and why they are mainly because of what her mom did to her as a kid. Now she's settled for Nathan. Poor day, she took a shot at Nathan here. She mentions having sex when she was only 13 years old. And she was trying to feel love from other people. And then she admits to killing Perry. She said, Mom, I was acting out the want to push you and the want to kill you, Mom. She wanted to kill her for everything that she did to Bonnie. And she projected that on Perry when she saw people she cared about that were in trouble. Bonnie's mom, as Bonnie finishes up and then walks away, we can tell that Bonnie's mom hears because she has a tear. So she is awake. She's hearing everything. She's faking it or whatever state she's in. She's another handful when it comes to the moms in this show. Then we go to the bankruptcy meeting where Renata and Gordon are there, and everyone who is owed something from them is there trying to claim and see what they can get. The housekeeper, Juliet, we were introduced to a little earlier on, the nanny, she is seeking severance for what she was owed, the $70,000 for her salary, and then she's seeking $160,000 for things that she provided, stress management and other services rendered. So not only is Gordon a liar, a schemer, a thief, he's also a cheater and an adulterer, and Renata is absolutely furious. She is having one of those amazing Renata breakdown scenes where she's screaming and just... You imagine her and what her life has, in the last few weeks of this show, completely unraveled from having every single thing in the world on the cover of the magazine, women in power, everything going great for you, and then all of a sudden you find out your daughter was having some struggles. She's in the hospital. You're not on... Obviously, you lose all your money. You're not on the cover of the magazine. Your husband's cheating on you. Not a great few weeks for Renata. We see the judge. The judge is prepared to make her decision, and before she does, Celeste stops her. Celeste wants to call one final witness. The judge says, no, I made my decision. I don't think one witness will change anything. But Celeste now wants to question Mary Louise because she wants to question Mary Louise's parental capacity. If Celeste doesn't have the parental capacity to raise these boys, doesn't the person who's trying to take custody have to also fit the same requirements? And so they have rescheduled a new hearing a few days later. Celeste wants to question Mary Louise because Celeste is herself a lawyer, and the judge agrees after a little coaxing. So we will now see Mary Louise and Celeste interact in the courtroom, where Celeste can ask Mary Louise anything she wants, and Mary Louise is bound by law to tell the truth. Where do the boys go? Do they go with Mary Louise? Do they go with Celeste? What happens? Jane and Corey, what happened with them? Is Corey telling the truth? Is he a cop? Is he not? Does Jane give him another shot? Somebody's dying, right? Somebody's getting killed in here in order to try to keep the secret, I feel. Bonnie's mom now knows. Do we ever see Bonnie actually going into a police station and confessing? Ed and Tori, what happens with them? Did they have their affair, their hot, steamy affair? Ed and Madeline, did they continue to take steps forward? Or will Ed be frustrated when he, at some point, you feel like inevitably he's going to find out what happens, and if it's not from Madeline, Ed's going to be very upset, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's the final straw. When Ed finds out she didn't tell him about this, he's not going to be mad at what he did, what she did. He gets hurt that she doesn't include him. What happens with Bonnie and Nathan now that Bonnie basically says she settled for him? What about Renata and Gordon? How can Renata just give this guy any ounce of an opportunity? Get him out, Renata. Get him out of here. It's your house and you live here. It's your house and you live here. Then the detective, who is basically behind every closed door, there's the detective trying to get each and every one of these women to crack. Trying to get them to give up the lie, because the lie is eating them all. The Big Little Lies. That is Big Little Thoughts. Thank you for tuning in again, folks. If you can, do me a big favor. Get on over to iTunes and leave a nice 5-star rating and review. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Over on SoundCloud, you can do the same. Tune in. We're on there. Also on Google Podcasts. So that's what G said, all over the place. Have a very nice weekend. Enjoy the final episode of Big Little Lies for Season 2. Also enjoy the racing out there. And we'll talk to you again in just a few days. Joey, my friend, take it away.